Klepper's Corner. Today in the news, July 23rd, 2025. Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, the only show where global trade wars, malnutrition, and cyber espionage all get the same treatment your dad gives to the thermostat. Absolute paranoia, a shrug, and no actual intervention. Today, July 23rd, 2025, the world is on fire. Literally, metaphorically, and probably legally. We've got tariffs flying, Gaza starving, judges fist-fighting DOJ officials, and the International Court of Justice handing out climate guilt like it's jury duty in hell. So buckle up, because the news is longer than Trump's list of enemies, and somehow even more vindictive. Segment 1. Japan bends the knee, but keeps the samurai sword hidden. The U.S. and Japan have struck a shiny new trade deal. Trump's original plan was to slap a 25% tariff on Japanese goods, but he settled for a more modest 15%, which means Trump just pulled off the economic equivalent of threatening to set your house on fire, then demanding applause for only flooding your kitchen. And in Japan, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is hanging on to his job by the last thread of his sushi roll. After a crushing election loss that screamed, "You're doing a bad job," in kanji, Ishiba is spinning this trade deal like it's his economic redemption arc. Sure, he says, young people hate me, the economy is crumbling, and I'm one empty ramen cup away from retirement. But hey, Toyotas just got cheaper in America. Markets loved it. The Nikkei popped 3.5%, Toyota stock got a facelift, and the Dow hit a new high, proving once again that investors don't care how many governments fall as long as their Apple stock rises. But here's the twist. While Trump crows about winning, Japan is now doubling down on artificial intelligence development. Because nothing says healthy trade relationship like pretending to be friends while secretly building a robot army that will one day own half the S&P 500. Segment 2. Tariff diplomacy, now with 40% more coercion. Elsewhere in the reality show called The Art of the Tariff, Trump is slapping duties on nations like a kid with a sticker book full of economic ultimatums. Deals have been struck with the Philippines and Indonesia, both facing new tariffs of 19%, down from earlier threats that read more like economic war crimes. Meanwhile, Vietnam's getting a 20% surprise penalty, and China? Well, China's in the middle of a high-stakes trade tango where 145% tariffs are on pause for 90 days, like some kind of financial Lent. And here's the tactic. Trump announces huge tariffs, negotiates them down slightly, and then declares himself a hero. It's the same move as ordering 10 cheeseburgers, eating only 8, and calling it a diet. This strategy has a name: coercive diplomacy. The message is clear. Play nice with Trump or your GDP gets waterboarded. It's global economic policy by way of Tony Soprano. Countries like South Korea and India are sweating bullets as the August 1st deadline looms. And economists are already lowering growth forecasts across Asia because apparently America first means everyone else, good luck. Segment 3, Gaza, starvation by bureaucracy. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis has reached what fresh hell is this levels. Over 110 aid agencies have declared that mass starvation is spreading. Not like theoretical starvation, real, literal children dying from hunger starvation. Tons of aid, food, medicine, water, are stuck behind blockades, sitting there like unopened Amazon packages for a family without a mailbox. UN staff are fainting on the job. Aid workers are starving. And yet politicians are scheduling peace talks like it's a wine tasting. Shall we pencil in a ceasefire for Friday after Parodies? More than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces while trying to get food. Think about that. Imagine a world where the sentence, "he died trying to get bread," isn't metaphorical, but just Tuesday. Israeli and Qatari officials are meeting in Rome tomorrow to discuss a ceasefire. But at the pace diplomacy moves, Gaza may run out of people before it runs out of hunger. If diplomacy is a race against starvation, right now starvation's running track and diplomacy just tripped over its own shoelaces. Segment 4. Ukraine. Missiles, protests, and Putin ghosting Zelensky again. Ukraine is having one of those days. Russia's bombing everything in sight. So Ukraine's military chief is asking for more air defense systems. Like, please help us. We're playing real-life missile command with actual lives on the line. At the same time, Zelensky decided now was the perfect time to pick a fight with anti-corruption watchdogs. Because if you're losing a war, why not also lose your public's trust? Thousands protested, accusing him of weakening Ukraine's already fragile democracy. Zelensky swears this is to root out Russian influence. That sounds noble, but also like the kind of excuse you give your girlfriend when you accidentally read her texts. I'm just checking for spies, babe. Meanwhile, Zelensky says he's open to peace talks with Putin. Putin responded by bombing a Ukrainian city and ghosting the meeting. Classic Putin. He's the Tinder date who sends a drone strike instead of a text. Segment 5. Covert wars and sabotage. Welcome to Iran's paranoia party. Iran is on fire, literally. Fires and explosions are popping off in oil refineries, judiciary buildings, and random apartment blocks. Officials say it's aging infrastructure, but off the record, they're pointing fingers at Israel faster than a Mossad drone can say shalom boom. It's a covert war on steroids. Iran's Revolutionary Guard is begging citizens not to download suspicious mobile apps. Yes, espionage recruitment now happens through Candy Crush clones. Congratulations, you've passed level 10. Now betray your country. Israel's playing coy, but their defense minister threatened more attacks, and Iran's president says they're ready to hit Israel's depth, which sounds less like a threat and more like a rejected Metallica album. This is no longer about airstrikes. It's hybrid warfare, physical attacks, digital manipulation, and psychological destabilization. The 21st century's most terrifying war zone is in your pocket. Segment 6, America versus UNESCO. The culture war goes global. In other news, the U.S. has decided to break up with UNESCO again. Trump says the agency is too woke, which in 2025 means it probably said something nice about brown people, women, or climate science. Yes, UNESCO, the global org that brought you World Heritage Sites, literacy programs, and the idea that maybe we shouldn't burn books, has now officially been labeled too controversial. Meanwhile, the U.S. government is totally cool with a missile named Big Beautiful Freedom 2.0. This is like storming out of the Louvre because the Mona Lisa gave you a smug look. She judged me, Trump probably says. I felt it. Pulling out of UNESCO isn't about policy. It's about messaging. Specifically, the message, we only support education if it stops at YouTube, which, coincidentally, is also how QAnon got started. Segment 7, DOJ v. Judges. Now streaming on Courtroom Smackdown. If you like your democracy with a side of spicy chaos, then let's talk about the showdown in New Jersey. Trump's pick for U.S. Attorney Alina Habba, yes, that Alina Habba, was rejected by federal judges who instead picked her assistant. Within hours, Attorney General Pam Bondi removed the assistant and reinstated Habba, saying the DOJ doesn't tolerate rogue judges. So let's recap. Judges chose someone. The executive branch unchose her. And now, somewhere, James Madison is dry heaving in his grave. This is more than a petty squabble. It's a full-on turf war over who gets to wield power in the justice system. And it sets a dangerous precedent. If judges don't give you what you want, just go full, you're fired, and declare a judicial mutiny. This is supposed to be checks and balances, not Game of Thrones District Court edition. Segment 8, Epstein's Ghost blocks the halls of Congress. Speaker Mike Johnson has declared recess early. So early it's practically pre-crime. Why? Because Democrats were about to call for votes demanding transparency on Epstein-related documents. Nothing says nothing to hide like slamming the doors shut and shouting, "Vacation time." Yes, the House sprinted out the back door faster than a Mar-a-Lago intern with a burner phone. It's always impressive how our government can go from deeply committed to justice to who wants mojitos in under 60 seconds. Combine that with the DOJ's curious silence on Ghislaine Maxwell, and you've got a bipartisan case of selective amnesia. It's like the country got Men in Black memory zapped every time Epstein's name comes up. When people ask why conspiracy theories flourish, it's because our political leaders are working overtime to make cover-up look like a reasonable default assumption. Segment 9, China hacks us again. Guess what they found? Microsoft SharePoint surprise. We've been hacked again. This time, 3 Chinese hacker groups exploited a vulnerability in Microsoft SharePoint and breached multiple U.S. government agencies. That's right, the back door wasn't a fancy zero-day exploit. It was SharePoint, the platform responsible for more internal chaos than any actual foreign adversary. We don't know how deep the breach goes, but considering it's SharePoint, they probably found about 800 folders labeled important final _v3. This is why cybersecurity can't be an afterthought. Because while you're trying to remember your 17-character password with 2 uppercase letters and a rune from Norse mythology, a state actor is walking in the front door with admin privileges and downloading everything from classified emails to someone's bad PowerPoint about morale. It's a good time to remember, your enemy doesn't need to attack with missiles when your cloud service comes with built-in vulnerabilities and a help desk that says, have you tried turning your government off and on again? Segment 10, the Golden Dome and the Musk problem. Speaking of national security, the Trump administration is now looking for new partners to build the Golden Dome missile defense system. Why? Because apparently relying on Elon Musk is like trusting your toddler to drive a tank. Might be innovative, but it's probably screaming at a robot in Mandarin by the end of the day. Trump's feud with Musk has gotten so bad, national defense is now being rerouted through alternate vendors just so the Pentagon doesn't have to deal with Tesla tech support. Press 1 if your satellite exploded. Press 2 if Elon tweeted a meme about Nazis. Diversifying our defense contractors is actually a good idea because the only thing more dangerous than a monopoly is a monopoly run by a guy who names his child after a Wi-Fi password. Segment 11, the ICJ gets serious about climate just in time for a heat wave. Today, the International Court of Justice is issuing a legal advisory opinion on climate change. It's non-binding, but it basically says, hey, countries, maybe stop cooking the planet like it's a rotisserie chicken. This could open the door for lawsuits against major polluters, which is great news for environmentalists and terrible news for every oil exec currently hiding behind a ficus in a Geneva boardroom. Meanwhile, back in America, the South and Midwest are in the grip of another heat wave, the kind of heat that makes asphalt melt, tempers flare, and everyone reconsider whether deodorant counts as PPE. So while the ICJ drops legal language like obligation to mitigate emissions, your grandma in Arkansas is trying not to pass out while watering the tomatoes. It's like the planet is saying, oh, you want legal accountability? How about fire tornadoes and crop failures until someone actually reads the damn opinion? So what did we learn today? That in 2025, the world is both too hot and too cold, economically frozen, environmentally scorched, and politically somewhere between Banana Republic and experimental improv show. Trade wars are being negotiated like mafia deals, aid is being withheld like spiteful custody, and our cybersecurity defense strategy appears to be hope for the best. We've got a president fighting judges, firing prosecutors, and unfiring them just to prove he can. We've got hackers in our SharePoint, missiles in the air, and ethics buried somewhere in a locked cabinet next to Epstein's secrets. But hey, at least the farmer's market is still opening on the National Mall. Because nothing says hope like heirloom tomatoes beneath the shadow of crumbling institutions. Until next time, I'm Klepper. This has been your corner. Try not to set anything on fire.